All right, welcome to another episode of Jiu-Jitsu Therapy with Chris Mize. Today we've got Coach Michael in with us. Kind of enjoyed having him the last episode, so we've got him back. Always good when he's in town, have him
What,
in.
what do you mean, kind of?
Well, I didn't want to speak in absolutes.
Oh, okay. Well, I kind of enjoy being here
Okay,
for a
we'll go
while.
for a while. The first 90 seconds, it was okay. But anyway, we appreciate him doing that again. We appreciate Coach Chris Bowen, who's our producer here in the Furlough Podcast Studios. So today we're going to be talking about taking time off from jujitsu. Is it a positive thing or is it a death warrant? So throughout training, if you do it any amount of time, you're going to end up finding these little intervals of time that you're not going to be able to train, whether that's related to family obligations, children, different things, vacations, or work, where you may even have some guys are on, like, they'll do a shift for a month and it may be night shift, they're doing all three shifts. So things kind of happen, in everybody's life where they have to take time off, not to mention possible injuries. And that actually makes things even worse because then you can't utilize your time as well when you're away. But just kind of just talking about things and just like I said, Coach Mike. I mean, I know you travel a good bit, so you'll
Yep.
you'll have some windows. You may travel for like a week. Hell, you were gone for a month.
Yep. Yeah, it's
You know.
yeah. Sometimes I get taken away for a month at a time,
Hmm.
so it's really hard to get into classes. And
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead anyway, carry on.
No, no. I was just going to say, you can look at it when it's that situation. There's not a whole lot you can do about it, but sometimes you can find good training on the road. Go some
Yeah.
places you may not. It's a great opportunity to kind of see how the other half lives. If your school, your school may be a little bit different from another, and you can kind of see how things are and a fresh perspective on things matter. But that's what you call making the best of it. I think one of the best stories I heard was the guy that does the Because Jiu Jitsu YouTube channel. He's a Canadian guy, and he was talking about right after he got his purple belt, he was doing rotating shifts, and he ended up having to take a little over a month off from jujitsu because he just couldn't make it work, and he was so worried. He's like, "Man, I just got my purple belt, and I'm just not gonna. I'm gonna go, and I'm just gonna fall behind, and I'm just not even gonna be able to do it anymore when I go in." So he was really worried about it. But one thing he did, he thought about it a lot, and occasionally when he had the chance, he would watch instructionals. He was doing maybe some mobility work, trying to work through some kinks, some little injuries, kind of healing those up, working his fitness and doing everything, just kind of doing his other ancillary things to try to make his game better, even though he couldn't actually do class. So he ended up coming back and he was rolling with another purple belt who was, had been a purple belt for a while. And he said he felt incredible. It felt awesome. And then the guy was like, he was rolling. He said, "Man, I think you're better than you were when you left." So that's just an example, but don't think just because for a forced reason, if you're not able to spend time on the mat, that you're going to backslide. Back in the old days, Master Sauer talks about when they were in Utah, nobody knew jujitsu. So if you missed a class, you were behind.
Yeah.
You didn't know
Yeah.
how to do an elbow escape, because you missed a class. So it meant more then. Now there's so much out there on YouTube and just like I said, all the instructional stuff. But
But it's funny you mentioned that guy from Canada because I went through the same experience. I was coming 4 or 5 times a week,
mhm,
to prepare for the purple belt,
mhm, mhm.
and that went on for a few months, and I
Uh-huh.
wasn't traveling, and then I got the purple belt, was there pretty consistently for about a month, and then
Mhm,
I've been
mhm.
away traveling. But what I've noticed is when I take them breaks, I come back, I'm actually better than before I went
So that's
away.
great to hear. I mean, that's exactly what we're
Yeah,
talking
I
about.
mean my rolling improves, everything. It seems to help me. It's almost like a recovery, and I come back refreshed.
Mhm, mhm.
So
Well, that's true. I mean, that's it's theoretical at this point. People think, oh, that's but it's just like anything else, where your mind is. And see, now you've accepted the fact that you don't have to deteriorate in your
no,
jujitsu. But your jujitsu it's been designed from day one to where, you can, plus you always, you're always in pretty good shape, but your jujitsu is so kind of hopefully technically based, and I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, you can amp it up, but it's good and it's there. So it's in your, it's in your mind and always there. When you talk about taking the time off, we always get dinged up
Yep.
in class. I mean, whatever. I mean, you may just step on the mat and twist your ankle or something. It's not just about just getting beat up all the time, but you know, sometimes, like I said, a little bit of a break is good, and even hitting that other part of it. But I think, you know, whether you're just training regularly or you're having to take interval breaks, our goal is always to find balance, in life in general. And just like you can do too much jujitsu, I know people don't want to hear that, but you can do too much jujitsu, I mean, and that jujitsu will throw you out of alignment. Your body will be like, oh, I'm tired of beat up and all this, and you don't feel like doing anything else because you're beat up from your jujitsu or whatever else, or your significant other isn't happy with you because you're spending too much time in
Yeah.
jujitsu.
Yeah.
Those kind of, hey, listen, if that ain't happening to you, good for you. Because I mean, I've been in it for a long time. I went through a lot of different shades of that, and a significant other is always going to complain about your time.
So at what point do you say that it's becoming an addiction?
Well, for me, it's a job now, so I have a good excuse.
My
So
job's
I'm
not
like
an
a crack.
addiction.
I'm like a crack dealer. So I'm like, hey, the first taste is free, baby. But no. So yeah, I just made a profession of it and doing it. So yeah, I get to do it as much as I want. I mean, there's days where I'll be doing jujitsu 5 or 6 hours a day.
Yep.
And I mean, I have to be smart about how to do that too, especially at 53 years old.
Well, I noticed that. I mean, I stayed with you a couple of times where we trained throughout the day,
Oh, yeah.
and I was the day after.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I was there like 5, 6 hours, and I was like, "How the fuck can you do?" I mean, I was wore out for about 2 weeks. I couldn't believe it. I'm not joking. It was terrible. I couldn't believe it. I
Well,
don't know.
but I'll be honest with you, Michael. You
Yeah.
did not pace yourself. You were going at it. He was rolling early on. He was rolling in the middle, and he was rolling at the end. He was going at it. Occasionally, he'd go, "I'm gonna go have some Gatorade and maybe some Spanish asparagus dip."
Yeah.
So I mean, or something. We'll go do that. But
No, but
cashew.
but but no, I mean I've had enforced breaks. I had to have a surgery,
Hmm.
and I was out for about a month, I think,
Hmm.
afterwards. Yeah.
Hmm.
And obviously through work, and every time I've had to take a break, I think I've come back better,
Hmm.
and I don't feel as though it's slipped back my knowledge.
Hmm.
It just takes a couple of classes, and I'm back into it. So I think overall, for me personally, it refreshes me. I think it's a good thing to take a break. Now,
Hmm.
I've never had to take a break for a few months.
Hmm.
I don't know what
Hmm.
would happen then.
Hmm. Hmm.
Probably a little bit of anxiety to come back.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, the surgery was a really unfortunate one.
Yes. Yes.
If your doctor tells you to get a hemorrhoidectomy, don't.
Well, a lot of times you don't have the choice. I mean, but it's not like you. But anyway, but yeah, I think you probably should. That's
Oh,
right.
And I
Yeah.
remember when it happened.
Are you gonna say? Don't say I was involved in
You,
it.
you were. I was
I-
lifting you with my legs. I'm like, oh, there it goes.
There it goes.
And when your doctor looked at it and he said, "Wow, that's a big one," it's a big one.
Nurse, bring me my measuring tape, my protractor.
I didn't know. How did you get that Bosu in there?
That's right. That's about what it was. Well,
Anyway.
those hemorrhoids, that builds character.
It certainly does. Anyway,
Yes.
about taking breaks.
Back to taking breaks.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, hemorrhoidectomy is a great excuse to take a break. It really is. So, yeah, if you've never experienced the joy of hemorrhoids, folks, like I said, good for you, and I hope you don't ever have to. But I have. Not that, I'll say this. A doctor friend of mine told me one time, a little bit of your own blood goes a long way. So if you're looking down, and again, coming from a guy's perspective, I'm just saying, a little bit of blood looks like a lot of blood in a toilet. Just not used to seeing it, and yeah. So, but yeah, we don't usually talk about hemorrhoids in jujitsu very much. But anyway, so yeah, it's just a regular thing. But anyway, but I think the things that people need to keep in mind whenever you're taking a forced break or something, jujitsu, we say it a lot, is a marathon and not a sprint. Your jujitsu is going to change over time. You're going to be adaptive in your jujitsu. You have to think like this: these guys that come back from war and may have lost an extremity or two or different things, and those guys have to really make an adjustment of their jujitsu. Some of them trained before, some of them didn't, but I mean, they come back and it becomes part of their life, and that's one thing that we have to learn through life is to adapt to stuff. And jujitsu is very good about teaching you to adapt to things and making everybody have their own kind of game. We have these kind of algorithms of how we do stuff, but again, it's everybody has their own style and the way that they kind of tweak little things to make it work for them. So,
So don't you think that if you have an enforced layoff from jiu-jitsu from an injury,
mhm.
does it change your jiu-jitsu when you come back?
Oh yeah, because you may not even have the mobility. I mean, Coach Eric talks about, um, and I'm not sure who it was that he was working with at the time, but they were trying to not open their guards, and he ended up tearing a hip flexor. I mean, bad. And so he basically had to play side guard for over a year. He said he basically couldn't put anybody in his full guard.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he was playing some half on his side or just playing like fetal facing or, kind of position. But when something like that happens, you have to. Of course, I've had several substantial little things. I came back too early. I recommend you guys to do what the doctor tells you. Don't just because you're feeling okay. Don't jump in too early because jujitsu is one of those things. There's all these things that you don't plan to happen when you're on the mat. Like somebody may fall on you or something, and you just got to be careful about how you do stuff. But yeah, it's very adaptive. I mean, you have to. I mean, even me, as I've gotten older, at least I've deteriorated on a level, where I just kind of adjust. But you have to have good mechanics when you do stuff. Elbows in, elbows close. When you do that, that prevents a lot of things from happening in itself. And just be smart with your jujitsu. We probably do a podcast on popping ribs out. Sometimes I read some stuff that it's odd. It's not odd. I mean, if you've got a strong jujitsu school, strong and not the jujitsu way, but just strong. I mean, if you just when you got people that can put pressure on you,
Yeah.
bodies are going to turn ways, and ribs are going to pop out of place. So your instructor needs to know how to do that, or
Yeah.
or
I think you're a pretty good gauge of when people are coming back from injuries.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can coach them in a way where
Yeah.
they're not putting themselves at risk. But I don't know if it's just me, but I've noticed in other jiu-jitsu gyms and not in our gym, people with their fingers taped up. I see people with their fingers taped up all over the place, but never at our gym. Why is that?
I mean, I don't know. I think maybe they think it just looks sexy. I mean,
Okay.
it's kind of a thing.
And I've only seen one guy or two guys with the cauliflower ears.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if it's the way we train, the culture in the gym, whether I don't know.
Well, somebody asked, which Master Hickson's, his ears aren't pretty ears, but somebody asked why aren't your ears jacked up, and he said because I know how to get out of a headlock.
Mm.
So I mean, if you're technical when you go and you're not just trying to rip your head out of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, wrestling's different because it's a contact sport on a wrestling level, and you get popped with elbows and hands and hips and everything else and stuff like that. So usually, just pure headlocks and grabbing of the head isn't what gives wrestlers necessarily cauliflower ears. The takedowns and the stopping the takedowns and things like that's what happens with that. But jiu-jitsu, like I said, it just kind of depends. I mean, some people are prevalent to cauliflower and some are not. I've been very blessed. I've had like 3 things happen with my ears, and every one of them were related to getting hit, not just rolling. So getting hit with an elbow, knee in the head, it poofed up a little bit, things like that. But I've got ears like I'm gonna look like Yoda when I get old. There's So yeah, they're just gonna sag. But anyway, but no, that so basically what we've determined now, and again, like I said, I didn't know Michael was going to come with that little pearl of wisdom. Don't let layoffs freak you out. Watch instructional stuff. Work on yourself. Work on the little dings that you may have, little injuries. Try to work through those. Make your balance. Try to balance your life out a little bit. Take some social time.
Yep.
Do those things because it all suffers. We've got to try to find balance. There is no true balance, but we've got to work toward it. Working towards the top of the mountain as opposed to moving backward.
Well, and if you have an extended time out, I tell you what helps me is actually having the contact details of the guys that go to the gym
Mm.
and just texting them and keeping in touch with them. Hey, how's it going?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And you're maintaining that.
Brian got choked out again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bow and arrow.
No, but seriously, I mean, yeah. Otherwise, you distance yourself and you're out.
Yeah.
You're kind of siloed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If I'm out, I'll text you or I'll
Yeah.
text Bill or whatever or
Right.
Gabe.
Right.
And keep in touch. And then
Well,
that's it.
it keeps you, like I said, it makes the transition back in easier, for
Yeah.
sure. You know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know what's been up while you've been out. And
Exactly.
stuff like that. But anyway, Coach Michael, I appreciate you coming in and doing this today. Coach Chris, thank you for being our producer again.
Yeah.
And so,
Appreciate it.
guys, please try to follow us. And with our Jiu-Jitsu Therapy podcast, we should be getting more and more content out there. So just be on the lookout for that. And until next time, have a good one.